everybody a reasonable secular atheist, but I can't. Most people who read Infidel, who are Muslim, who write to me, have not converted to atheism, even though they've gained a full insight, not from my book, but on their own experiences. They relate to me and they say, I don't want to be a Muslim. I completely understand why Islam is not a moral guideline for me. But dear Ayan, will you not consider Christianity, or will you not consider something else? Just don't even be an agnostic, but don't become an atheist. So I have to acknowledge that human beings are not inclined toward atheism. It's only a minority. Given the challenge that we are faced with, given the resources that the agents of Islam are putting into their message, given the fact that this is almost a losing battle because we are not taking them on, and given the fact that there are very moderate Christians who offer that combination of a spiritual satisfaction with modernity and the respect and sacredness of life and liberty and human rights, I think it would be wrong and neglectful not to involve Christians to go after that demography of 1.57 billion Muslims, who today, I think, many of them are seeking a concept of God that's humane and are now getting only Allah. And Allah wants only one thing: domination, submission, and violence. And I think other concepts of God also need to get into the marketplace of spirituality.
What is your opinion of the madrasa schooling that some Muslims receive in our country? Does this education skew the views of America and Americans? If so, what do you recommend we should do?
Well, we have ample evidence on what is taught in madrasas, Muslim centers, mosques. Some of it is what I would put again in that category of purely spiritual, the calls to prayer, to fasting, etc. But a large part of it is criminal, describing America as the great Satan, imams telling American Muslims not to integrate but to infiltrate. The way we find out about these things is through raids done by the FBI. It's not something that you get, or infiltrations done by the FBI. It's not as if the Islamists will come out and say, this is what we preach. But given the fact that we have this evidence, again, I'm a liberal, a classical liberal. I don't believe in banning books. I don't believe in banning speech. I think there should be a competition of ideas. And you want to peddle your idea in a madrasa or in any other institution that Islamic philosophy is the best way to live together, great, go for it. But I also want to go and peddle my idea to the same audiences and let them decide. And I'm not going to use the ad hominems. I'm not going to call you a racist or this or that, all kinds of nonsensical names. Don't do the same. You may if you want, but I want to be protected from that.
We have another question about Christians converting Muslims. How do you explain your position that Christians should proselytize Muslims so that the Muslims might convert? Isn't this simply trading one belief system predicated upon a benevolent God who will destroy infidels for another?
As you've said a number of times, I'm an atheist. And one thing that means is, was God now, is it God that created mankind, or is it man that created God? And obviously, I believe, until there's enough evidence to show otherwise, that man created God. And it's not only one God, there are different concepts of a God. I'm not advocating religious dogma. I'm just saying, given the fact that there are different concepts of God, given the fact that most human beings want a concept of a God, then a humane God, a God that allows the equality of men and women, that allows the equality of heterosexuals and homosexuals, that is tolerant of other people's beliefs, that concept of a God is very, very attractive, way more. It's just like going to the spa sometimes. You get all kinds of treatments, and I think if you get a treatment that tells you, we're going to cut you open and straighten you out, I think most people find that extreme. Allah, at this point in history, is extreme. Other concepts of God, of a God, might be more appealing. Why don't we just open that up to them? I'm not advocating dogmas and intolerance and the replacing of one intolerant God with another God. I'm only acknowledging that the Christian God has gone through the Reformation, has gone through the Enlightenment, has evolved in general. Doesn't apply to every single Christian, but in general, things have evolved to a point where I think that the Christian religion, especially as it is practiced in the West, is much more attractive, much more humane, and far less dangerous than the Islamic God.
What is the AHA Foundation, and how can people join or help out?
The AHA Foundation is inspired by American friends here who, after they read Infidel, and 2 of them are here with us today, said, what can we do? And explained to me that in the US, it's not only, you don't change injustices on society only by using government instruments, but civil society has its part. So it is a private foundation, and our mission statement is to protect the rights of Muslim women living here in the US from militant Islam and tribal custom. Some of the practices, some of the violations were mentioned earlier: female genital mutilation practiced on little children, honor killings, honor violence, young women that are pulled out of school, that are forced into marriage. If they refuse and resist, they're taken, transported back to the countries of origin. And if you in America think that it doesn't happen here, then please look at the examples in Texas. There were 2 girls in Texas who were killed by their father, a cab driver, because of their chosen lifestyle. And that chosen lifestyle was that of the average American teenager. A girl in Arizona who was run over by her father because of her lifestyle. A woman in Georgia who was forced into marriage by her father, who accepted it, couldn't live with the husband her father chose for her. And when she left and went back to her father, he stabbed her because she shamed him. I'm talking about that and a myriad of hidden injustices you can't see. All the little girls who are pulled out of school here in the United States. So that's what the AHA Foundation wants to focus on, to create an awareness that was absent in Europe in the 1960s and in the 1970s, in the 1980s. And later when we found out in the Netherlands, it was too late in some cases because A, people had died, but B, the practices had become so entrenched that some of the European legislators were actually considering simply recognizing informal Sharia. And the mission of the AHA is to prevent Americans from doing that and choosing to help the girls.
So participants have an aha moment.
Yes.
Okay. We are almost out of time, but before I ask the last question, there are a couple of important matters I need to take care of. First of all, I'd like to remind you of future speakers. On November 10th, Jeff Bridges, the Academy Award-winning actor, will be here to talk about efforts to combat hunger. On December 2nd, Muhtar Kent, CEO of Coca-Cola, will be speaking here. Now, you ready for your final Jeopardy question? Your life story would make a most compelling and educational movie. Are you considering this idea? And I like to add, if so, who do you want to play you?
This is the most challenging question I've ever had in public. Infidel is in the hands of my agent, who is talking to people in Hollywood, and who might take it from that story to a screenplay. I haven't been following the status of it, so I can't tell you the movie is going to be released then and then. Who do I want to play me? I don't know. You'll be surprised. The first time I met Meryl Streep, I told her, "Can you please play me?"
She probably could.
And she said, "No, because that's just not how it works in Hollywood." And I was not looking at my skin color. I was only looking at actresses I like, who I find convincing, and I find her very convincing. But if we can find a black actress who is convincing, like Meryl Streep, then I would say yeah. Okay.
Before you go, I have to present you with our traditional get this ribbon, press club mug.
Yeah. Thank you. It's my second.
I would like to thank our National Press Club staff, particularly Melinda Cook, Joanne Booz, our Executive Director, Bill McCarran, and plus our Library and Broadcast Center for organizing today's event. For more information about joining the Press Club or on how to acquire a copy of today's program, please go to our website, www.press.org. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Oh. Kill me. I screwed up. Okay. So I was sitting there. Okay, how do I stall for time? I can't stall for time. So.
We met a second ago, but I didn't know who you were. You know my friend Mike Roberts?